Erica and Sharon are sisters who began their grief journey in 2006 when Erica's 10-year-old son Austin drowned. Together, they participated in a grief education program, were so moved by this experience, they studied and became specialists so they could help the brokenhearted find recovery. In 2015, tragedy struck their family once again when Erica's oldest son Donovan was killed in a motorcycle accident. Erica and Sharon are committed to sharing their experiences of love, loss, and healing through this podcast. Now your grief specialists, Sharon and Erica.
You are listening to Healing Starts with the Heart podcast with Sharon and Erica. Welcome to Healing Starts from the Heart, where it's all about you, the griever, and your broken heart, how to move beyond your pain. Now your grief recovery specialist, Sharon Brubaker and Erica Honore.
Hey, Erica, thank you. Welcome, friends. My name is Sharon Brubaker, and I'm an advanced certified grief recovery specialist. You were listening to my sister do the intro, and that is Erica Honore. We're so happy that you guys came back to listen to our podcast where it's all about moving beyond the pain of your broken heart. If you're listening to this show today, there's a huge probability that your heart may be broken. It could be from a grief, either recent or long ago, or it could be from the breakup of a romantic relationship, or from a pet loss. There's so many losses that a griever can encounter. If you've been listening to our show over time, you know that we came to grief recovery 12 years ago when Erica's son Austin drowned in 2006. We didn't even know how to get beyond the pain, but we studied and became grief recovery specialists, and now we help grievers that have broken hearts. And we want to welcome you to our show today.
Regardless of the cause of your broken heart, you know how you feel, and it probably isn't good. We're not going to tell you how you feel because you already know. And we will not tell you that we know how you feel because we don't. Neither does anyone else. At best, we can tell you that we remember how we felt when our losses occurred, and it really, really was not good. Thank you so much for joining us again. Today, our episode is New Year, Same Pain.
How about that? That's a great title, don't you think, Erica?
I really do, because there's so many people out there, new year, new me, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, making all these promises to themselves. But, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are waking up saying, okay, yeah, it's a new year, but I still feel really crummy and I don't feel good and I don't know what to do.
I know. It's unbelievable. So in my grief recovery business, at the end of the year, starting around October, people start regretting the holiday, right? They start wanting to hear information on how am I going to get through the holiday? How do I get through Halloween? How do I get through Thanksgiving? And then you and I started doing some blogs on that, and we started putting the word out. And a lot of my clients, it was really like helping them through that pain. But one of the things that I noticed, and I noticed this year in and year out, so you have to tell me about this. It's almost like they survive Christmas. They can get through Christmas, they can get through that one part, but for many of my clients, the day after is where they actually fall apart. Or the day after is where the pain absolutely hits them. It's like I held it together for this moment, and now I can't do this. What has been
Absolutely. I feel like it's like you're kind of climbing this mountain, and you see the top, and you finally reach it, and you pull yourself up. I mean, you're struggling because you're exhausted, and you're worn out, and you finally get to the top only to look up and see that there's more mountain to climb. I mean, that's the only thing I can equate it to. And it's such a letdown because you've done all this work to get where you are and you're kind of still nowhere, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about the new year, new pain, real quick. It's like I have this new year, but I still have the same old pain from my broken heart. And it's almost like, how am I going to get through the year with this pain? How am I going to get through this next year with all of this pain? And you shared something with me the other day that everyone kept telling you, just get through one day at a time, get through one day at a time. But you said that one day was too much.
It's too long. It's overwhelming. I tell my clients, break it down to 1 minute at a time if you need to, 1 hour at a time, because a full day is so long when you're suffering. It is just so incredibly daunting. And I think one of the things that's hard for people to understand, but when you're suffering from a broken heart, from whatever your loss is, because like you and I have discussed, there's so much more than just loss as a result of death. I mean, you could be breaking up with someone you've been in a long-term relationship with, or divorcing, or you could have just lost your job right before the new year, you know? So it's just the pain from that is debilitating. I mean, it really breaks you down to your core. So to consider having to face an entire day with that pain is extremely overwhelming.
What about a entire year? There's so many of our friends.
It's like a mountain. You're not going to get over that next mountain when you finally lift yourself up through Christmas.
Yeah, don't you think they're looking through the whole year and thinking, how are they going to even do that?
Absolutely, because it's like, you see all, especially with social media. I mean, I always say social media is a blessing and a curse. So you get to see people and what their resolutions are and what they're committing to change, and you just want to stay in bed with the covers over your head. It's like, it's so exhausting to even think about trying to motivate yourself to do something positive for yourself. Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning, Erica, and let's talk about what grief really is. So let's see here. Trying to get my PowerPoint. Can you see it, Erica?
I can see it.
Okay. So grief is the normal and natural reaction to a loss of any kind. It is normal and natural for us to grieve. And we know for a fact that everyone will experience grief at some point in their life, right?
Absolutely.
And as I shared at the beginning, go ahead.
I was going to say, you would think that, considering a little bit of our history, I feel like we've experienced grief our entire lives. Well, not necessarily knowing that it was grief, but we've experienced death our entire lives because our family is so huge. So I have been going to funerals since I was 6 years old. So, when I recently met a client and his first grieving experience was the loss of his wife, it like blew me away. But yes, at some point in time, you will experience a grieving event.
And the other thing that we really need to have people understand is that grief is not just about death. Grief is about any loss that we can experience over a lifetime, right? So, for example, you said that client, the first that he experienced was his wife passing away, but having your bike stolen as a child, moving and having to go to different schools, being brought up in the service where your parents are moving and you're leaving all of your friends behind, that's a loss in your heart. And I've worked with clients, including myself, that affected us over a lifetime. The constant loss of it growing can affect us over a lifetime, not just that initial bam loss.
That's true. And I think honestly, if getting him to really see the things that he did experience in his childhood, he did equate that there were significant losses prior to the loss of his spouse. But that was just the first one he went with, because he just said, okay, death, this is it. This is my first time. But yeah, there's so much you go through from, elementary school, high school, college, that by the time you are an adult, you've experienced a lot of significant losses that people don't really say would be a grieving event.
So if grief is normal and natural, and grief is a normal and natural reaction to a loss of any kind, why don't we know how to do it? Why did you and I not know how to grieve on that day when I came to your house to tell you?
Because as society, we're not taught how to talk about grief. Grief is the most taboo subject to talk about.
Right.
People don't want to talk about it because it makes people uncomfortable. So the minute you start sharing, they want to get out of that conversation quick, fast, and in a hurry. So that shuts grievers down. And then you just kind of deal with it on your own, because that's one of the, concepts is, you need to deal with that by yourself. Don't go bringing other people down. That's your issue.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that, do you remember when Austin died in 2006, your need to talk about it a lot?
Oh yeah, I wanted to go over this story every single day because that's all I could think about. All I could think about was the minute I found out that he had drowned, and I just replayed that over and over. It was like I was stuck in a time loop. So that's all I wanted to talk about, just to kind of reaffirm, though, that it was real, because it almost feels like you're living in this nightmare.
You're reaffirming that it was real, but I felt like something else was happening as well. It's also the way that your body accepts what has happened. Because I feel, tell me if you think this is true. I feel that if the full mask of what had just happened to you, that your 10-year-old son had drowned, and you accepted that and let it in, you would literally be on the floor crawled up in a ball. But by talking about it, you're able to allow little bits and pieces of it to seep in at a time and the reality to come true.
Yeah, I guess I would have to agree with that, because it is such a shock to your entire system that to break it down a little bit every day and to kind of go through it, it does allow you to, I guess, start getting that one foot in front of the other to kind of figure out how you're going to pick up your pieces. So yes, I would agree with that.
So part of what happened was that every day I would call you on the phone, and every day it didn't matter what we were talking about. We could talk about trees or the weather. It always went back to that same part in the story, that same part where I came to your house and told you that he had drowned. And you started from there, and you would repeat the story over and over again. But I want to clear this up for our friends. Grievers need to talk, and they need to be listened to and heard with respect. And they have a huge urge to talk. But a lot of times, Erica, they're not given that safe place to talk where people can just listen to them. I didn't realize I was creating for you a safe place to talk, and so you were allowed to tell the story. And I also told my version of the story as well. But a lot of times, our friends, the grievers, they don't have that.
Right, because, it makes people uncomfortable if you start crying, or if you show any emotion, anger, whatever emotion you're feeling in that moment. It really, really doesn't sit well with some people. So allowing me to just sit and feel whatever I was feeling on the day you would happen to call really did help a lot. And some days when you wouldn't call when you came over, and I'd just be sitting on the front porch and you would just sit there and we'd be quiet. We wouldn't even talk.
Yeah.
That also helps because you weren't forcing me to express something that I actually, sometimes you're just numb. So you don't feel anything. You just need to sit.
Let's talk about some of the typical responses to grief. So some of the typical responses of how a person may know that they're grieving is reduced concentration. Did you experience that?
Oh my gosh. It's almost like, when you have the new baby and you're so sleep deprived that I remember when Jordan was born and I was so sleep deprived. I put the cereal in the fridge and I put the milk in the cabinet. I was it's like that. It's like you're sleepwalking through your days because all you can focus on is how bad you feel. That consumes all of your energy, all of your attention. It's like, the body is an amazing thing, right? So if you have a trauma, let's say your leg gets amputated or your arm gets amputated, that's where the whole focus of your body is going. So when your heart is broken as the result of a loss, that's all you can think about. That's all you can do is feel that pain. And you just sleepwalk through everything else.
And a sense of numbness.
Yeah, for sure. It's just, like I said, it's like a shock. It's a shock to your whole world, your whole system. So it's just, we talked about earlier about having to process it a little bit every single day. That's it, because you're so numb, and it doesn't seem real that this event has occurred, that this has really happened to you.
So a friend of ours who's grieving could experience disruptive sleep patterns, change in eating habits, a roller coaster of emotions, along with reduced concentration and a sense of numbness. I want to leave our friends today, Erica, with the one thing that will help them for their new year. Still the same pain. What's the one bit of advice you want to give them today? And then I'll give mine.
In terms of assisting them through the grief, or
just allowing the grief?
I would have to say that's it in the nutshell. You have to allow yourself to feel the pain. You can't outrun it. You can't stuff it. You can't ignore it. Because one thing I tell my clients is grief will find a way. And if you deny it in terms of your emotional being to deal with it, you will deal with it physically. It will manifest itself somewhere in your body, some kind of way. You have to allow yourself to feel the pain.
That is so true. And I think the thing that I want to leave with our friends is that recovery from grief is possible. There absolutely is a way to recover from the pain, which means fond memories will return. You'll be able to think of your loved one, and that absolute gut-wrenching pain where the knife is stabbed in your heart will absolutely be removed. Erica and I are here to help you with any loss you may be experiencing. And here's a great way to get started. You can reach out to us at Healing Starts with the Heart. Or you can reach me, Sharon Brubaker, at SharonBrubaker.com, 661-212-0720. Or you can reach Erica at Erica Honore, grmethod, at gmail.com, 818-974-1124. Thank you, my friends, for joining us today, and look for our next segment where we continue New Year, same pain.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.